Welcome in. Last week we talked about the SEC coaches spring meeting. We talked about what Kirby Smart said about seceding from the NCAA. We talked about what different coaches had to say. We talked about the Brendan Sorsby situation on our social media post. Well, Brendan Sorsby and Texas Tech, they just can't seem to get out of the news, folks. They are back in the news where Texas Tech or Brendan Sorsby was considered ineligible by the NCAA, comes out by a judge in Lubbock, Texas, that they have um, completely said whatever with the NCAA, and an injunction has been in place, and he is now allowed to play in the 2026 football season. So there is a lot to discuss. What we're going to talk about right now is the Brendan Sorsby situation. What are the repercussions of it? What is going on? How in the heck is he getting to play college football? Why college football is broken? We're also going to talk about here in a couple minutes stadium renovations. Florida just announced yesterday a $1.4 billion stadium renovations to the Swamp. But right now, we're going to jump on in to the first segment of the show, and that's going to be the obvious one. We're going to give a little bit of a recap here. So Brendan Sorsby, I know everybody already knows this, but just as a reminder, he bet over $90,000 over 4 years, bet on his own team when he was on Indiana in 2022. Like I said, the NCAA ruled him ineligible. Texas Tech appealed it; they got denied, and then a judge ruled him in his favor on June 8th. As of right now, he is going to be suspended for the first 2 games and eligible to come back by the judge. He's eligible to come back week 3 versus Houston. Now, the Texas Tech head coach has said that he doesn't know if he's going to be able to come back at that time, but if he's probably going to come back. I mean, they didn't pay him $4 million to sit on the sideline, and they didn't help. They didn't support him through this ginormous, shitstorm, if you want to call it. The lawsuit, all that. They didn't support him through all this for him not to get to play. So I would be very shocked if he's not playing week 3 versus Houston. I'd be pretty floored. So I guess here's the thing. Why is he getting to play? That's what we're here to discuss. And the other coaches and other colleges in college football have responded with some pretty crazy things that make a lot of sense and why they'd be mad. Georgia and Nebraska's athletic directors have come out and said they will not schedule Texas Tech again. Multiple Big 12 schools have said that they were not going to play Texas Tech at all this season. The Big 10, they want to not play Texas Tech ever again in every sport. There have been multiple things throughout the week. This has been one of the biggest news weeks Texas Tech is just taking a beating right now by everybody other than the people in their camp. They even had a press conference basically explaining why they get to break the rules and why that Brendan Sorsby is why Brendan Sorsby is allowed to play in the 2026 season. So if you got to explain yourself on a YouTube video with the head coach, with the AD, and other officials with Texas Tech about something, that probably means it's pretty obvious that you did something very wrong and that this should not be allowed. But I have common sense, and I guess they don't. But if you're a Texas Tech fan, if you're in that organization, you're thrilled. But it's just that you cannot bet on college football games and be allowed to play during the season. If you don't think, I've already said this online, if you don't think that there's going to be backroom deals with these younger kids saying, hey, I'll give you so and so amount of money to throw this game or to not score or blah, 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 blah. That's going to happen. It probably already has happened, but it's going to get worse because now what's going to happen? What's going to happen? They're going to do jack squat, nothing. The NCAA has no power. No one has any power. You could dang near, commit robbery on the field or whatever the case may be, which is, already happening with just paying whoever the most money you can. And the NCAA can't put any power. They can't put any rules in place. So schools are gonna break the rules, especially school people break the rules when there are rules in place and when they are scared that they're gonna get in trouble. Now there's no rules and they're not gonna get in trouble. They can just sue and sue and sue until they get a judge in their town that's going to rule in their favor, and they'll just appeal, 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 and then hope to get an injunction. I mean, it's worked so far. It worked for Ole Miss, which is a little bit different situation with Trinidad Chambliss getting his 6 year eligibility, and now it's worked for someone gambling on their own team. Um, so I mean, we're in a bad part of we're in a bad stage of college football. It's really sad to see what's happened so far. But we're gonna keep moving on, kind of staying on this thing with Texas Tech. So what could happen next? I'm going to inform you on what could happen next. Potentially, Texas Tech could get ready to sue the Big 12 if the Big 12 elects to not let them play. If the Big 12 basically says we're not going to play you, Texas Tech can sue them. I mean, they obviously paid Sorsby 3 to 4 million, maybe $5 million. I think is what it was to play. So I mean, they're obviously going to want him to play. So and here's the thing, they're probably going to win because why wouldn't they win? I mean, what is the NCAA going to do? You know what? If they lose the first time, they're just going to appeal. They're just going to appeal. I mean, the NCAA hasn't enforced. If you can enforce, unfortunately, if you can enforce gambling on your own team and gambling while playing, then what can you enforce? That's like the number one rule in ethics in sports is you don't gamble, especially on your own team, but in general, you don't gamble because you can cheat. I mean, or you can throw games, or it just messes up. You can affect outcomes. People are fans are also betting on the games. You can rig games. Like I know I'm sounding crazy here, but there's no rules, so there's endless possibilities. That's why I'm sounding crazy with throwing games and making people think that this and that, blah blah blah. I mean, it's a free for all, and we have already known that when it comes to getting to school, certain schools is obviously have advantages. Ohio State, Miami, Michigan, you name all the schools that have a bunch of billionaires, and those schools are going to be towards the top and have a ginormous advantage in a sport right now that has no rules, and the rules that they so called have, they can't enforce them. So um, I guess Sorsby could still go into the supplemental draft if he decided to. That's on June 22nd. He has to decide by then. Um, but Texas Tech is kind of claiming that they weren't involved a little bit. It was more of like a Sorsby suing the NCAA, which they're right. But they paid him $5 million or $4 million, whatever it is, to come play ball. So, yeah, they kind of are involved, and they've been supporting him throughout, which you kind of expect them to do. But this is just a whole situation where we should never be in. This is what should have happened. He should have been the moment that they found out Brendan Sorsby had been betting on his own team and betting large amounts of money for a period of time. He should unequivocally been disqualified to play in college football for the rest of his career. Now he needs to go. Now he would obviously needs to go get help, needs to go get treatment. This has nothing to do with me trying to be bad or rude to Brendan Sorsby. This is just what should have happened in a system of thought that has common sense. Is he is disqualified to play for the 2026 season, and in my opinion, or I mean the 2027 season, I should say. Um, and disqualified to play for the rest of college football. He would have to go in the supplemental draft. And then that way he can go through the treatment and get the things that maybe have an opportunity to go play pro football. But I mean, now that you don't have rules and you can just do whatever, I mean, that's just not the right way. The NCAA should have when they did an appeal system, you shouldn't allow to be having a judge from your town to dictate what is good for the school that they probably went to. That's a conflict of interest. That's 101. You can't have a judge from the town that the lawsuit or the college is suing the NCAA from. I mean, 9 times out of 10, they're going to go with their alumni school or their town they're living in. You have to have some type of outside, nothing to do with, doesn't have any bias controlling what the outcome is. And you just have to. Unfortunately, what's happened is the NCAA has been so bad for so long that they've made a bunch of stupid decisions in the past to now everyone's like, screw the NCAA. We don't want them to have any power because they make bad decisions. Well, unfortunately, now we need them to have decisions and we need them to lay down the law. And now they can't do it because no one respects the NCAA and what they've done in the past with the rulings like this because they've kind of gotten their own way. Um, so that is the update on the Brendan Sorsby situation. We think it's over, but I mean, you never know. I mean, this story keeps going on and on and on. Let's switch it up. We're going to move on to one of the bigger stories. This happened yesterday afternoon. The University of Florida announced a $1.45 billion stadium renovation to the Swamp. It's the most expensive stadium renovation in college football history. It will start after this upcoming season. It's going to be done about 2030, and I take that back. That was but yeah, it's going to be done about 2030. So the Swamp, like I said, a $1.5 million renovation is coming to Florida. It's expected to end in 2030. This is the most expensive renovation in college football history. It's staying at 88,000 seats. Every dollar, according to some of the things that I've read, is going to go to quality. They're basically, in theory, guys, they're trying to make more money. And they're going to be putting in more premium seating, more VIP seating, more boxes. Those are cash cows. College football, unfortunately, that I don't like, is turning very corporate and they've got to make money. Why is that? It's because the rosters cost 50 to 60 million dollars per year. That's why that they have to dump these amount of money into the stadium because they're hoping to get a big return on the investment with VIP and booster seating from these corporate entities that will spend 2-3 million dollars on these premium seats because they're not making as much money. The schools are not as they used to in the past because they're giving out so much money and bidding on so many different players for such a high volume every single year. There's 50, $60 million going out in a roster, and that's only going to increase if we don't have any rule changes. Um, so obviously, the Swamp is one of the most historical stadiums in the country for college football. Is this a smart business move? Yeah, it's a smart business move. I mean, Florida is, when they're good, they're never going to have a problem selling out those premium seats. This is really good for business. This is going to make them a lot of money. My question is going to be, is this going to be what's best for the average Florida fan? I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. It just seems like to me this is turning more into like a, unfortunate, I do not like saying this, it's just turning more into like a rich person thing to be able to go enjoy college football games, which is not what I like at all. College football is about families, um, everybody being able to come together to support the school that you love. So, is this probably going to take away from some other people that do not have the financial needs as other people, as rich people? Yes, because what's going to end up happening is they're going to put in premium seating and the tickets prices are going to go up because there's more premium seating. So that they say they're not going to dwindle. They say that they're not going to reduce the amount of capacity they have currently, but I mean they're just going to increase. That becomes less potentially if they do, or whatever the case may be with the development. It could be less regular seats, which could increase the price for them. So, is this going to be absolutely insane? Yes, I think the Swamp is going to look really cool. I've never been there. I'd love to go there. Um, so yeah, this is going to be an insane adventure. We'll see what happens. I'm kind of a fan of it. I think it's going to be good, but at the same time, I'm worried about the average fan and what it could do down the road. What does this mean for everybody else? So, like I said, Florida, 1.45 billion into the swamp. South Carolina is currently redoing Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia for $350 million, which is significantly less than what Florida is doing. I think Florida is doing more of like a. It seems to be more of an extensive renovation, and South Carolina is doing what I just said, but they're focusing on premium seating. They're focusing on VIP seating to boost revenue, like Florida is, and like all these schools across the country is. They're having to bring in more revenue and more ways to bring in revenue to pay for their rosters and then NIL budgets and all that sort of thing to keep these players um, coming to the school. So the question is like, what does this mean? Well, what this means is every single school over the next 3 to 4 years is going to be building stadiums closer to a premium seating, VIP, rich person type of stadium rather than a more affordable, a bunch of seats. That is those the days of stadiums having 115, 110, 95,000 in new stadiums are probably gone. I hope they're not gone. I hope I'm wrong about this, but for example, like a stadium like Tennessee, I mean that place is extremely loud. It's extremely old. So it'll be interesting to see what their stadium looks like when they do, or if they're in the process of doing some renovations, because it's so historical. College stadiums are historical in general. So when you renovate them, it can be good for business. And I do think they can be made better, but you got to be careful with not stripping the history of the stadium. So what this is going to do is it's going to make everybody else across the SEC and across the country improve their facilities, because it's just raising the competition, because no kid is going to want to go play for stadiums that's not as cool as the other ones. That's just obvious. So it's just a spending spree. And those are what we've got right now. And like I said, the South Carolina, we talked about the South Carolina renovation, the Florida renovation. Quickly on the South Carolina renovation, it's $350 million, 3 phases. It's supposed to be done by the first phase is supposed to be done by September 5th this season. Full project done in 2028. Um, does South Carolina get the same result as Florida? Probably not, because I think Florida, like I said, is doing a more extensive renovation. Um, so, like I said, they're South Carolina specifically focusing on bathrooms, premium seating, making the lines in concessions more efficient, that sort of thing, which Williams-Brice Stadium needs incredibly. They need that really badly. I've been in that stadium multiple times, and it is pretty bad to is awful to use the restroom. It takes forever. Um, so the bottom line from this episode basically is the NCAA has no power anymore. Texas Tech is proving it over and over that if you have enough money and enough means and you just can sue the crap out of the NCAA until you get the injunction you need from the in your town, the judge you need, that you can do pretty much whatever you want. I mean, clearly you can have a player that bets on his own team and bets on himself and wins. So that's what's happening right now. And we were also going to see we can continue to follow the story of stadium renovations and what this means for what this means for fans, what this means for players, what this means for the schools, and how they can make more money, but also, unfortunately, potentially hurt the historical atmosphere. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope schools keep in the back of their mind what the history of the stadium is and what it means to the fans. That is all we have here on Tavern Talk. I'm John Baylor Altman. Please follow us on all social media platforms. I'll post this all over social media.